Hi, everybody. This is Felicia. I am so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to talk to you today about how to set up spiritual boundaries. This is probably one of the most frequently asked questions that I get from clients or potential clients or somebody that's just a seeker wondering about spirituality and the universe and how it all works. And across all of those, this is probably the question that I get the most. So I wanted to teach you how to do that today. Now, spiritual boundaries are important, especially when you're opening up your energy to start consciously working with the universe. So this is anybody that is maybe wanting to start talking to their angels, or their spirit guides, or people that have crossed over. It's not necessarily just for anybody that's doing this for their job, for a living. It's anybody that just wants to be more connected. When you first start opening up your energy like that, it's really, really important to have boundaries. In fact, when I first started working with Archangel Michael, this was the first thing that he taught me how to do. And I didn't really know that it was required until I started waking up in the middle of the night. And it happened for about a week, where 2 a.m. every single night for a week, I was woken up. And I started to get really frustrated, because that's when I was brand new to this work and my guides were talking to me at 2 a.m. And I was frustrated. I didn't want to be woken up in the middle of the night, right? Who does? And so I was fast asleep, but they were just poking me and waking me up. That was because I didn't have spiritual boundaries set up. So like most of us, I think we learn after an experience, right? We have an experience that's unpleasant, that we don't like. And then we change things and we learn how to make it different, right? So why this is important is it sets up a boundary between you and spirit. So instead of just letting them being the universe, wake you up whenever they feel like it, we set up boundaries when it's appropriate for spirit to come in and speak to you, for instance. That's just one possible boundary. Now, it also helps you in your life. Waking up at 2 a.m. is not pleasant for most of us that are fast asleep, right? Unless you're a night owl, but I think most of us are asleep at that time. Now, let's say you work the night shift and you're asleep from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m., right? That would be like spirit waking you up at like 10 a.m. You wouldn't like that. You're fast asleep. You've been fast asleep for 2 hours. So this is why we set up boundaries. We need to have an understanding with spirit, and spirit needs to have an understanding with us what times are appropriate to communicate with us. That's one example of a boundary. But also, setting up spiritual boundaries does not really work unless you are setting up time as well to consciously connect with the universe. This is, for example, meditation. Taking a walk in nature, going and sitting on a park bench, taking a salt bath, whatever helps you connect and feel centered and peaceful, where you could receive the information that spirit is wanting to communicate with you, that also has to be set up. So you can't just do a spiritual boundary without having a conscious connection time. Because here's what will happen. If you say to spirit, you can't wake me up when I go to bed at night, right? They're going to go, okay, great. They're going to listen to that for a while. But if you haven't set up a time to connect with them so that they can provide guidance to you, they will wake you up in the middle of the night. That's what happened to me. That's what happens to the people I teach, right? So you need to have both. You need to have the time that you're consciously connecting with spirit. That's a ritual, right? That you set up for yourself. It's a non-negotiable for me. It's non-negotiable. I don't sacrifice my self-care for to go out and play or go to the coffee shop or whatever. And listen, things come up sometimes. We need to make adjustments to times and to our schedule. But the point is, make the adjustment. Don't sacrifice it. Just change the time. Because what will happen is if you're sacrificing that conscious connection time with spirit, they're going to go ding, ding, ding in the middle of the night, and they're going to tell you everything they have to say, or all those awesome ideas are going to come in the middle of the night when you could be getting those awesome ideas during the day instead, when you're fully awake and present and you have your journal nearby. So I hope that makes sense. So how you set up spiritual boundaries is you have to decide what you will and what you will not accept. I'll give you an example of some of mine. So one of mine is, I don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night. When I go to bed at 10 p.m.-ish, or my boundary is actually, when I go to bed for the night, I don't want spirit waking me up. And you're allowed to connect with me again at 9 a.m., for instance. Now, I'm giving you the boundary that I had when I first started this work. I have different boundaries now. They've evolved as I go, but I want to give you beginner boundaries so that you could start working with it and seeing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So you want to give them a range of time. And all you do is you set an intention. It's like, spirit will not contact me between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. That's a boundary. Now, in order for them to observe that boundary, you need to set up your counter boundary. I will consciously connect with spirit every day from 8 to 8:30 a.m. Okay? You're going to decide what conscious connection looks like for you. So that's your call, what you want to do on that. So that's an example of a boundary. Another boundary that I had when I first started out was I wasn't able to read energy clearly yet. So a lot of times beings would come and talk to me and I didn't know who they were and if they were of the light, right? And I actually did have beings that were lower vibration come and talk to me when I first started doing my work. And I knew enough, I was still new to it, but I knew enough to know that the things that they were saying was unloving and that did not sound like what I hear from the angels. And I had been talking to the angels for about a month at that point. So I knew and I recognized it as more of a fear-based energy, even though I couldn't tell, were they crossed over? Were they from another dimension? What was going on, etc. Now I'm so practiced, I can tell where they're coming from, even the planet, I can tell. So with practice, you can tell where the beings are coming from. This is called an energetic imprint. So I'll do more on that another time, but that comes with practice. You're able to tell. It's like a thumbprint. It's like a fingerprint of what the being is. So Archangel Michael has his own fingerprint, energetic imprint. Archangel Haniel has her own. Gabriel has his own. I have my own energetic imprint, and so do you. So with practice, you're able to tell who's coming through. Now, until that point, though, you need a boundary in place because you certainly don't want to talk to beings that are not of the light. There are people that are very good at that. They're very good at helping even people cross over, etc. We're not teaching you that today. So while you're practicing, you need to be a little more careful with your energy and you need to have some good boundaries in place. Now, we're going to link you to the video on shielding, okay? So I want you to make sure that you shield yourself before you consciously connect at any point. This is putting a great big gold pyramid. Use your imagination or use your feelings to place a big gold pyramid all the way around you. And make that pyramid bigger than your house, okay? But go watch that video on it because it's really helpful. Now that you've set up the time, you put the pyramid up around you, you sit down in your time, and this is when you set your boundaries during your conscious connection time in meditation. So you're going to sit down and do it at that time. And I really want you to sit down even before that and think about what your boundaries are. For instance, do you want to talk to people that have crossed over? Maybe you don't, and that's okay. And my earlier note about how I had some lower vibrational beings, that probably will happen to you. Because when you open up your energy, your light, beings see that and they want to come in and say something or do something, etc. It's nothing to be afraid of. But I want you to know that you are the one that dictates what the universe is able to do. So this is not about being fearful. This is about going, no, that is not acceptable. It's training, really. And it's you standing in your strength and power and going, no, this is a boundary for me and you will not cross it. Okay? Now remember, boundaries are loving. So you can't put up a boundary that's something like, oh, let me think of an unkind boundary. I will not pass on messages for people that really need to hear them. That's kind of not the best boundary that you could set up, because we're here as messengers. Now, we could have fears about passing on a message, or our own fears coming up. So a boundary that you could set up is, I'd like to pass on a message, but it will be when I feel more comfortable. That's an example of a different type of boundary. These are more high-level boundaries. I wouldn't do this at the beginning. I just wanted you to be aware of some of these initial ones. Now, I'm going to tell you my first boundary that I ever set up, because I think it would be great if you tried this too. I set up a boundary that said, any beings that want to speak with me have to come through Archangel Michael first. If they come through Archangel Michael, I know that they are beings of the light, and I will talk to them during my designated days and times. That boundary is still in place for me. I'll have you know that when crossed over spirits come and talk to me, they don't come to me directly. Michael reaches out to me and goes, I need you to talk to this person. And I go, okay. So my boundary for that is still in place. That's been 3 years now with the same boundary. My other boundaries have changed, evolved. So that's a boundary that I would urge you to set up with Archangel Michael, and then get practiced with talking to Archangel Michael. Sit with him in meditation. Find out what his energetic imprint feels like. So when he does come through, you know how that feels, how his energy feels. And then you'll know when there's another energy around that's not his, and you go back to your boundary and setting it in place. Okay? I hope that helps you. I would love to have you try this out and update me in the comments about how this worked for you, especially if you're someone that gets woken up in the middle of the night. Comment on the video right below this video and let me know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, because we have 2 videos a week that come out, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber. So I will talk to you on the next one, sending you lots of love and good luck with your spiritual boundaries. Keep me posted. I'd love to hear what's going on with you. Okay, take good care. Bye.